Good morning, Roleplayers. It is a beautiful Monday morning where I live, and I hope that the same can be said for you. Really quick, before I jump into the conversation with my guest today, I want to give a huge thank you to the people who have been coming on and setting up the submission form to come onto the podcast. I have so many people who want to come in and talk to me about this weird, crazy hobby, and I'm sure each of us are going to have a wild story to tell. I have enough podcast episodes edited and ready to go for the next 2 months, and I have enough guests to last us the next 3 months after that, I believe. I also want to give a quick apology for the episode not coming out last Monday. I will get better at social media and just informing people in general about what happened. I know that I don't have a big social media presence. I will do my best to work on that, actually becoming better at the social media. Last Sunday, I had to restart my computer because I had a big problem going on. I couldn't save any files. It wouldn't allow me to make more projects or work on anything. So I had to back everything up, but in the process of doing this, some files were lost, and I had to spend a lot of time with my friend recovering these files from an external hard drive. It was just a mess. I am so sorry. I'll try to do an extra episode somewhere before the end of the year, so that way I can still meet the quota that I had lined out for myself. I also want to say welcome to anybody new, and hello to anybody returning. It's been a pleasure to have you guys here. If you'd like to join us further after this interview, please come join us down below in the Discord. Lots of role players there. Lots of times we just talk about random shit, really, but I love all of them very much, and I would love for you to be a part of that. It's also just a really good way to reach out to me if you want to. You can reach out to me via the emails, but you can also just come in Discord and say hello to me. Alright, enough rambling from me. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. Character building, that's what it was. I knew it. Okay.
Character building. Ooh.
Yes, your response was, I'd love to talk about the exploratory nature of character building. A lot of mine
I
are
knew there was a
explained, but not
reason I
me.
pulled up my character sheets. I knew it. I forgot what I was going to talk about, but I totally remembered because I have 2 character sheets pulled up, and I'm like, why are these here?
Yeah. So we're gonna get into that. We're probably gonna excuse me. We are gonna get into that in like the later half of the episode, if that is okay with you. I just like to I used to do this thing where I'd introduce people and be like, hi, my name is Mr. Island, what's up? Blah 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 blah. This is my guest, the amazing so and so. But I stopped doing that because it made it feel less of a conversation and more of an interview. And I've been trying really hard to push to people that this is more just a conversation about people who like to roleplay and talking about roleplay and how wild and weird and cool and crazy roleplaying can be.
Nice.
Yeah. So, hi, Dewey. It's so nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you, Mr. Island. I am doing all of the hand gestures and facial expressions, and it just doesn't matter. But that is how I talk, is with hands ablaze and just, yeah.
I do the same thing. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's just a side effect of being ADHD. And you and I both met through an ADHD.
We met through the creator of because of the Modern Sam app. I'm so excited. I've been beta testing it. It is, I can't say more than that, but I'm excited.
I'm glad it's going so well. This will be because this episode isn't going to come out until next year, actually, 2024, to date this. So I'm super excited to get Sam's I say Sam's. Oh no, what was his name? I feel so bad. Ryan.
The creator is Ryan.
I knew his name was Ryan. I just forgot about it. Don't worry, everybody.
That's okay. That's okay. But yeah, I am known in that community for just my exuberance.
Yes. So I know that you and I met through an ADHD community, but I know that you also like role playing. So how has, on the topic of ADHD, how has ADHD been affecting you role play wise?
So it's been a little bit useful insofar as the majority of the people in my routine groups I have one that's currently on indefinite hiatus, and there's one that I had been in for a good chunk of one of the preformed modules. We got most of the way through Tomb of Annihilation, but
And that's a good
I
one.
just tend to end up in groups that are also full of neurospicy people. So as long as the game master, dungeon master person is prepared for that, it's a really good time because nobody gets mad when we go all the way down the rabbit hole. It's just like, okay, so we all wandered off. Let's get back on track now. But that was a great side quest. Love that for us. So I
I
think it just mostly amounts to who I end up playing with.
Did you say neurospicy, by the way?
I definitely did.
I love that. I'm gonna start referring to it as neurospicy from now on because that sounds so much better than
We
neurodivergent.
just have a little more flavor than perhaps everyone expects.
Well, now I can be like, I'm a little spicy when I have to deal with people because sometimes it's impossible to keep my attention in one spot. So I have to then roundabout myself to them and say, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I just went off on a little tangent there." Now I can be like, "Don't worry, I'm just neurospicy and I apologize."
And at some level, like I love that terminology for myself because parts of it can be really, really fun and exciting, and parts of it can just wreck me,
Hmm.
similarly to spice levels in food. Depending on who you are, depending what's going on, you will either have a very good time or a very bad time.
I've been using the term spoons a lot more lately. Like I never used spoons
Yeah.
until probably I
Uh-huh.
joined the Modern Sam community. But now I'd be
Mm.
like, I don't have the spoons for this today, or I don't have the spoons for that today. These people have taken
Yeah.
all my spoons.
Yeah, another term I've seen people use is I'm low on spell slots.
Yeah, see, that's the cool, like, that's the one I want to start using, but unfortunately, I'm at that point where I'm saying spoons so much that if I force the spell slots shenanigans, then I'm not going to get it 100% correct all the time, and I'll go back and forth between spoons and spell slots.
But at some level, does it really matter? Because either way, it's like, a really good analogy. Because if you need a spoon and all you have is a knife, it's going to go better than if you have nothing, but it's still not going to go right per se.
You're absolutely right, and I'm gonna just go ahead and start using spell slots from now on. That was all I needed to hear to make spell slots happen. Oh, speaking of spell slots, so I'm assuming from the way we've been talking, I'm assuming that you know at least a good bit about D&D at this point.
So the majority of my tabletop role-playing experience is Dungeons and Dragons 5e. I play mostly 5th edition. I have briefly attempted things like Pathfinder, or rather Starfinder. I played like 2 sessions of Starfinder. I had a friend who became the forever DM of the group, but way back when he was starting out, he tried to have me do a little bit of Dark Heresy, and husband was also involved in that game. But it was literally 3 of us, and it was something, all right, with the fridge magnets and the soda cans as minis. But you
Hmm.
know what? He's come a long way. We've come a long way, and my my favorite character made it to level 9 so far, and I'm really proud of her.
That's awesome. I have never been in a game long enough for my character in D&D at least. And 3.5, 4.0, uh I don't even know. I haven't played 5.e yet. But in 3.5 and 4.0 and hell, I don't even think in 2.0 I ever gotten a character above level 7.
And granted, we started at level 3 on purpose.
That's fair. Sometimes I do that just because sometimes when I'm running a game, I'll just do that because I'm just like I know people want to have their different characters and stuff. And I immediately just go ahead and after the first, like we all start at level 1, but after the first playtest, like the first game, I immediately
Mm-hmm.
just jump everybody up to level 2 or 3.
Yes, classic milestone experience points. I love that.
Yeah, because I know that people are there to play characters, and to have a fun narrative experience with the other people. So I'm just like, I'm gonna just get you up there immediately, and then from there you can develop your characters however you see fit.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of emphasizing role play, and yes, combat is a way to have the characters interact differently than they would out of battle, but I really do live for the narrative aspect and the interaction
I,
component.
I do too. Me and my friends are playing a game called We're Blasting Off Again right now, which is or we're blasting off. Yeah, we're blasting off. No, Blasting Off Again. I always get that mixed up, but it's a game inspired by Team Rocket from Pokemon.
Oh
Like
no, I
Jesse,
love this already.
yeah, it's but specifically around Jesse James and Meowth's shenanigans, right? And
Mhm.
we're playing through this little game, and eventually I'm gonna have this thing, sort of like an audio drama ish project that I'm working on, and I'm trying to like come up with the sound effects and stuff like that, and I don't know if I could ever have gotten to the point of trying to make weird grunting noises I probably could have in D&D, but in this idea, I'm just sitting on the other side of the camera making weird grunting noises at at my friends, and they're just laughing at me about it. I prefer the narrative and the camaraderie of tabletop more than I do the combat, is what I'm trying to get at.
Mhm.
I just went off on a weird tangent there. Sorry, I'm neurospicy.
Good news, I'm also neurospicy. I'm having a good time.
Good. So, how did you get into role playing? Out of curiosity.
Oh gosh. That's a really good question. I'm not entirely clear on the exact path, but I do have to give a quick shout out. I have a cousin who's like 12 years older than me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I was like 7, and one time he was just ready to be done with interacting with me and like playing whatever I wanted to play, like tiny little girl cousin, and like I want to go play the drums, and fair enough. But
Mm-hmm.
also like this was probably the early mid 90s, and he said, "All right, so here's what we're going to do," because I was a little bit relentless about it, not going to lie. And he's like, "All right, so here's what we're going to do. The way it goes when my friends and I need to make a decision is we let the dice decide." So he pulls out D&D dice, and he's like, "If we get this number or higher, we're going to do what you want to do. If we get this number or lower, we're going to do what I want to do, and we're done."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I lost that role, and that's probably where it started, was just the idea that, like, let the dice decide and you're just gonna have to live with it.
Let the Chaos Lords depict my fate, please. Yes, I like that. I am. I have.
But that was
I don't.
probably my first exposure that I remember to tabletop RPGs, was just this concept of the dice will decide what happens.
Yeah, I like that. That was one of the main draws for me as well, where I was like, I can just let these things decide for me. I don't actually have to do anything other than play pretend and just roll some dice. God, this sounds so much better, actually.
But I also definitely have a deep appreciation for theater and improv in general. I definitely took electives in school, ever at all, for that sort of stuff. I wasn't great at it in the levels and the like ways that I was hoping to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that that past experience of having just kind of a shell of a story and moving through it and just kind of winging it as you go has been useful, both in and out of character. Um, my day job, if you want to call it a day job, it's mostly nights and weekends, but
Mm-hmm.
I work at a public library, and a lot of what I do for my regular job is a lot like that, where there's this general narrative of people are coming here to get their library business done, borrow whatever, ask their questions, etc., attend a program, whatever. And my job is to get us through the day, and whatever comes up, I will handle it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like playing a tabletop RPG. Like, all right, here's this situation. What do you do? Well, here's what I'm going to try and do. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. I'm the same way, and thinking I've started to be the same way at the very least, where I've started approaching things more like more as a sense of more, I should say, less as a sense of this is something that I am doing, and more as something that I have choices, and I'm gonna just pick a path and see how that plays out. As long as I'm not over like hurting someone or stepping on someone's foot or something like that, I should be okay.
Yeah, getting used to the idea of even if something goes squirrely, there's still room to resolve it a lot of the time has been helpful. And a lot of how I kind of make those choices in real life, I tend to be like, all right, so here's this other person in my life who would probably be really useful in this situation. What would they be doing right now about this? And
Mm-hmm.
that is how I make a lot of decisions out of character, is just saying, all right, what would my godmother be doing? What would my old boss be saying right now about this
Mm-hmm.
or to this person? And it
Well,
gets me through a lot of stuff to
oh
just
yeah,
draw on. I'm going to treat this like I'm so and so, and I'm just going to handle it. And afterwards, we'll see what happens.
and hopefully everything turns out for the best, right?
A lot of times I get through it. A lot of times I get through it. I made it to this interview. That's pretty cool.
Hey, welcome, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast. 20 minutes in, I have arrived.
Oh, you're finally here. We can finally get started. All right,
Yay!
let me bring up the cannons, and we'll get this show on the road. But how? So I also can't remember how I started in D&D or tabletops in general. I'll be honest with you. I keep flip-flopping between 2.0 and 3.5. I honestly can't remember which one was my first game, and I hope no one out there thinks I'm lying because I just don't remember. I'm sorry.
But also, like, depending on when those first couple of games were, they might have been close enough together that on a practical level, it's irrelevant.
That's true. That is true. I've never thought about it like that. I really haven't. Who was your I like to ask this question a lot sometimes. Who was your first character?
Oh, my first character. Oh gosh, that was that's a really good question. Was that the Starfinder, or was that was probably the Starfinder? And none of us knew the system, including the DM. We were just experimenting with Starfinder, and I barely remember my character. I was not playing a human. I mean, it might I just I barely remember the character. We barely got through like 2 sessions, and we're like, forget this. We're gonna try Dungeons and Dragons instead. And then I played a very forgettable rogue that I
Hmm.
literally just modeled after my biological sibling. And I was just like, all right, what would my brother be doing? And that was not a super fun character, even though my brother is a super fun person. Just I'm not good at him.
Hmm.
But my first really, really solid character is probably the one whose character sheet I have up, and that is Heibu. Heibu is an Aarakocra barbarian, and she has failed every charisma save she has ever attempted,
That's wonderful.
and everybody loves her anyway
Oh
because
yeah.
it's just me if I were stronger and a giant bird, and just that's been a lot of fun, is to just kind of like optimize my personality in ways that real life doesn't allow me to do. And similarly, I played a wizard artificer mishmash at one point called Lynn, and that was really fun. It was custom lineage, and there was this perpetual passive deception where people thought that she was a Yuan-Ti, a snake person, because has a tail, it looks like a snake. Clearly, this is, but no, she's got custom lineage, and that is her Triton or Merperson heritage coming out as a sea snake. But she just quietly doesn't correct people, so it's not like an active deception. I don't have to roll deception checks.
Hmm.
And session one with that character was really interesting because she got incredibly drunk, and for the most part, people still didn't understand what was happening. So those are some of my more memorable characters.
I have a few like that as well. Yeah. Have you tried to reuse them at all? Have they continued
Oh,
existence
oh,
or?
so So Lynn was actually a test drive for a future character where I'm going to basically be like my evil librarian Quinn in D&D mode, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to play another character similarly with similar lineage where it's a Triton but looks like a Yuan-Ti visually to the casual observer. And I'm hoping to do the Unearthed Arcana arcane help desk and just be like, please hold. Let me see how I can screw you up without letting on that I'm just not here for this and I just don't want to be here.
Right.
Because I really do try sincerely to be helpful at my job and in life, and D&D is a good opportunity to just kind of like let out all the stress and tension of those interactions where I have to be the diplomat for various reasons, but part of me is just like with the little two versions of me on either shoulder going, do this, do that, and I'm just like, this will
I
make great D&D content, but that is not how I'm going to interact in this actual setting. Thank you.
Right. I have a mechanic for this. And what I call it the stress die. And
Oh my
it gets to a
gosh.
point where in a game, sometimes I just do not know what my character will do. And I don't do this for every character because it doesn't make sense for every character to do this, but there are some things where I personally don't know how to handle it, and I don't think my character knows how to handle it. So I use this thing called a stress die. And I will just take this D6 or this D4, whatever I've decided at the beginning of this game, and I'll roll it, and if I roll a 1, I throw a chair. That's just how it's gonna work. My character is gonna pick up a chair and throw it. I don't know how, I don't know why, but that's what's gonna happen. And I'm sorry, but that's probably gonna be my whole ass action, because I don't know what else to do. And of course, there'll be like other things like chug a potion, uh, ask
But
for
it's literally just like roll the dice, see what happens with
yeah,
the amount of stress that I'm under.
yeah, pretty much, yes.
I love
Uh,
it.
I don't know if that will help you at all, but if anybody out there ever wants to make a stress die, it's super easy. Just pick a D4, D6, D2, D whatever. Write down whatever your character will do during these stress times, and just roll it. And then that's what your character is gonna do. Chug 20 potions. Well, there you go.
That's a lot of potions. Do they stack? Do they are they all
That's
the same kind of potion? I have questions.
that's entirely up to your DM and you.
Gosh. That's great. I might borrow that someday.
It's just something to do. It's just an outlet to give me a way of interacting with a table with no thought, because I just don't know how a certain thing will set up. No, I can't do that in the Warhammer 40k game that I'm in right now, the Dark
Mhm.
Heresy game that I'm in right now, because
Mhm.
then my character will die because everything in Dark Heresy is awful and terrible and trying to kill you.
Yeah, I have vague and very vague. It was probably a decade ago recollections of that setting. I was a sister of battle called Keldra Dawnslayer, and I had more fun making the name than a lot of the rest of it. But I was new at it. It was, a baby DM. Like, of
Hmm.
course, it was more about just learning how to interact with, with one DM and two players. It's going to be hard in that setting. And it went well enough that that's now the person running Hey Boo's game, if we ever get back to it. But like my favorite characters, I build around their names. And so Lynn with the Triton heritage and the wizardry was a pun the whole time. It's Lynn, the wizard, like from
Give me
Arthurian legend. I totally went there.
Give me one moment. My son has asked me to come with him into the kitchen, so give me one moment. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
This is the obligatory Jaden interrupts the show section.
Whee! PhD break.
I'm so sorry. My son keeps interrupting us this day. That I just could not get him to chill out for my life that day. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and just use this time to throw in the mid-roll section. And if you are somebody who has a role-playing podcast, please come, let me know. I will be happy to insert an ad read for you or whatever you like right here. My whole thing about my podcast is I want to help the roleplay community and talk to the roleplay community, and if you're a part of that community, I would like to have you here.
Hello, hello, hello. We are Roleplay Rejects, an actual play podcast that is all about new and unusual tabletop role-playing games. Our show explores various role-playing systems and their associated worlds while being guided by one of the rejects as Game Master. Each story is entirely separate and designed to be listened to in any order, and comes complete with laughter.
Yeah, bippity boppity, I'm gonna take your lunch money.
And sadness.
I've never killed anything before.
Puns.
We struck Yukon Gold.
And whatever the hell this is. So what are you waiting for? Listen to Roleplay Rejects wherever you get podcasts.
The cat got up on the counter, and that was enough for me to have to come in there and look.
I mean, the cat did something interesting. It's the rules. You have to go look. I know how this works. Like, this is fine.
I'm actually about to get, speaking of my son interrupting in our first games and such, I'm actually about to get my son, or at least I'm going to try to get my son into tabletops pretty soon, starting on tomorrow, actually. I'm going to sit down with my friends, and we're going to make up little character sheets, and we're going to use this game called Animon Story, which is like this mixture between D&D and Pokemon. And I'm very excited about it. Like, you pick the type of character you are, not your class or anything like that. So you have, like, you're the rebel, you're the loner, you're the team leader, you're the whoever. And I'm going to make one up for my son. And because he has just such an active imagination as it is. So I feel like I need to get him involved in this. I feel like it's going to be just such a good outlet for his mind and his brain, and just to have some more quality time with Daddy. I'm really excited about it.
Yay!
Yeah, my friends are going to join me as well. So it's going to be me, 2 other adults, and Jaden. And really, we're going to let Jaden just kind of run this whole thing, and we're just going to spend like an hour on Mondays just just going through the story with him. It might be a little difficult at first. He might not completely understand. And I'm pretty sure my son is ADHD like I am. So we might have to struggle for the first few games, but we'll see how it goes.
I know I sit still better when I've got something to do with my hands. I bring crochet to work and stuff like that.
I know it.
To keep my hands busy.
Yeah. I know, in just my hands. Like, I can't be thinking about it. I just need to have something in my hands. Like, you know how you can roll the coin between your fingers?
Sure.
I picked that up just because I just needed something to do while I was playing tabletop. I just mess with the coin or fiddle with the coin.
Yeah.
And Fun. It can't be anything that is super taxing on my attention, because I need to have something. Yeah, just something small. Something small, so I can focus on the other people.
Yeah, a lot of people at the library will read books when they're not in the middle of helping someone, but I found that I tend to hyper-focus if I get into the book at all, and that's not compatible with me being a frontline worker. So instead I crochet because I'm really good at still hearing the phone, still noticing out of the periphery of my vision that the door is opening, things like that. I'm better positioned to put it down in a hurry than for a book. So that's basically a accommodation for me at this point. Is that I crochet instead of reading at the desk.
That's fair. I don't blame you. I know that some people. I know that crocheting has become a bigger thing in recent years. So I'm pretty sure. Like, can't you just buy designs now, and just work?
I mean, there are definitely people who professionally produce patterns and sell the rights to use them. In some cases for private use only, but a lot of times, as long as you say this is from a design by so-and-so, sometimes you're able to sell your work. I mostly just make for myself just to keep my hands busy, and I end up donating a lot of what I make or gifting it to people in my life that happen to be appreciative. I also make rugs.
Rugs. I love me a good
No,
rug.
like
I know this is weird.
I here's the thing, like I'm a hook crafter. Like
Uh-huh.
there's people who do needle arts with like cross stitch or knitting. I've tried both of them. I am a hook crafter. So I make latch hook rugs. I hook individual pieces of yarn through mesh, knot them one by one in a grid, and it turns into a rug. So I've made like 2 or 3 of them already for my best friend, and she's also very much a skillful knitter and crocheter, so she appreciates what goes into making the tension even and things like that. Like even though that's not her individual craft, she can appreciate that my stitches are tight and even and the amount of time and effort it takes to make into one. And she's already used to knowing how to take care of textile art. So she's got, 2 or 3 already, and I made a massive one for myself first.
Have you ever tried to take this hobby of yours and give it to like one of your characters?
Not yet. I
So
should.
my friends, I have seen plenty of people. As a matter of fact, the last guest I had on, and I talked about this just quite in depth, is where
Closest thing would probably be Weaver's tools.
yeah, we love when people, at least like from an outside perspective, I love it when a player comes to the table and we have a good time with them, and then they go away and they come back later. Not like go away from the game, but like, next session they come back with like an art piece drawn of the game that or the previous session we just had. I know somebody who makes who loves to play in cyberpunk settings, and they leave and they come back and they're like, hey, I came up with this awesome electronic art that was based off of the last session, and I think it would be really cool to play. And so you could totally do it with your crocheting as well, I believe. I mean, you have a character who loves to, like, who when you go to a place or to build friendships, loves to set down rugs for the people. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to go in depth with the explanation as to why. They just like to do it. And then you could leave and you can come back and you could be like, well, this is the rug that my character would have made. And you could just give it to whoever.
Oh my gosh, what?
I love when people do stuff like that. I love when people branch out and learn not only from the characters, but from like their hobbies and bring it into the game. Oh, and here he comes again. Yes, my love bug. No, I am doing an interview right now, and you have to be quiet. All right, can't wait to edit that out later. Can't wait to edit all that out later. It happens every session. It happened with Ryan. It happened with my last guest. Every session, I have the obligatory Jaden interrupts. Yeah.
But also notice the professional library skill where I made 0 noise somehow, even though that was so adorable.
Aww. Yeah,
because it's my job not to intervene.
I love my baby boy so much. I think being a librarian is cool, by the way. I always wanted to be a librarian.
Yeah, me too. But I don't think it's in the cards. So actually, fun side tangent. Not everybody that works the desk and that you interact with as the library staff is going to be a proper librarian. In the sense that is a professional terminology designation, and at least where I live, that requires a master's level education in a relevant credential. Like in Pennsylvania, you have to have the Master of Library and Information Science, or you are not a librarian. You can be a branch manager without being a librarian, but you cannot call yourself the branch librarian unless you have that credential, is my understanding.
Wow.
So I just work circulation. Like I'm the person you think of as the librarian, but the librarians actually do way more and different things than what I do. They're in charge of things like figuring out how to buy the books, or do community outreach. Sometimes they have a lot to do that my job is mostly just keeping the busy work out of the way of them so that they can do the things that only they can do. I am de facto support staff.
Hell
But
yeah.
I love how people like really do think that I am, and I do have an uncanny, even like according to my managers in the past, I do have an uncanny command of Dewey Decimal numbers for someone who never formally sat down in a class about them, other than like the rudimentary, like in grade school when they take you to the library to teach you how it works level. Like I probably saw a poster one time, but other than that, it's mostly just been stuff I've picked up by working. I used to be the shelver or a page. Some places call it a page, and that's who puts things away. And that's one of their primary roles, is to put things away, collect the book drop, that sort of thing. Very important role. I know entirely too well how much that can take out of you physically, and it is a wonderful thing to have different specializations within the library doing their specialized roles and to just have each other to lean on. I am team collaboration all the way, similarly to how in Pitter Pigs, TTRPGs, tabletop RPGs, I don't know. But like the whole thing of each of us has our role. We can and will expand beyond if need be, but we have our specialization and that's what we're best for. And sometimes you need to call in the specialist and sometimes you don't. But team collaboration all the way. And that's what it is for me, is just collaborative storytelling.
That's how I feel about it too. I've mentioned this before in the podcast, but as I've gotten older, I much prefer the collaborative storytelling, the narrative, than I do anything else. I find that I just love the storytelling so much more than I love the combat or the fighting or like that.
I have to say, I've come to really love homebrew. Over time. Homebrew, just things that people make up and introduce, unofficial content that they just kind of. This is me strong-arming my familiar pet from Kebu's game into the conversation, because I'm just so, I love him so much. So what happened is my Storm Herald Barbarian adopted a lightning elemental that is basically modeled after a Craig cat. The DM took the stat block and just kind of mushed it together with lightning elemental type skills. And so I now have Zigzag, air quotes, Ziggy Stardust as a secondary character. Because why not? Why not? I want a cat.
There is a podcast and a few games that I feel like you should listen to.
Oh.
And again, I bring these up only because you mentioned a cat. So there's a podcast.
No. You had to go look at a cat. This is your doing.
This is my doing. You're right. There is a podcast called oh man, I forget the name of it exactly. Hold on. My friend was on it not too long ago. It's basically a podcast where you quite literally take a system that you really love and you make a literal cat in that system. You have to go through and use the mechanics the best you can to make a physical cat. A literal cat, I'm sorry. And then there is a bunch of games that all basically, I say a bunch. There's one off the top of my head. It's called Magical Kitties Save the Day. Do you know about that one?
No, but I might need to.
I love that game so much, and I go to the gym a lot, and I've been slowly making friends with the people at the gym. And what I would really like to do is I would like to get like a bunch of just really buff people to sit down with me and play this Magical Kitties Save the Day game.
That's so. I would listen to that as an actual play. I'm telling you right now, I would listen to that as an actual play. I say this very confidently with my ADHD brain, knowing full well that I have never successfully maintained a podcast listenings in my life. But like, I've subscribed to so many and I listen to none of them. I try so hard.
It's okay.
It's the brain spices.
I know. I get it. It is difficult sometimes. I at my job, I work normally 12-hour shifts. I just need a lot of I need to listen to something while I work. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. If there's something like playing on an intercom, I can listen to that. Unless it's, the obligatory holiday music over and over and over again. Okay, that's a lie. I love holiday music. I'm sorry everyone had to find out this way. I love holiday music. But I listen to a lot of podcasts to help me pass the time. I mean, a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
You will be amazed about how many podcasts you can get in during a 12-hour shift.
If I weren't already really, really solid with my access to music, and I still have my CD player from when I was a student in the 90s. So I'm literally listening to CDs at home still. I bought them, they're mine, I might as well. But when I'm crafting, I typically have music going in the background. But if I didn't, I would probably be listening to podcasts relentlessly. I've definitely seen people do that with much success.
That's me.
I want to get into audiobooks, but for whatever reason, it's not working for me.
That's another thing that I listen to a lot of his audiobooks. And again, I don't blame you. It's just it's one of those things that it's going to work for you or it's not going to work for you. I know that there's a bunch of audio dramas over on Spotify that I personally like, but I know they don't work for everybody.
But for anybody else that does still have their CD player, it's worth asking at your local public library because then they're free.
Oh yes, I listened to Jurassic Park that way.
Nice.
Michael
Crichton.
Crichton, thank you. I keep calling him Cretan.
Crichton, I think.
Yeah, I know people keep getting mad at me for saying Cretan is Crichton. Anyways.
I think so. I've only ever seen it written down.
Now they're gonna yell at me. Anyways, so there was something else you wanted.
No, they're
gonna
yell at me because I work at a library and I should know better.
I'll tell them not to. I'll make sure nobody yells at you.
I
Don't you worry.
I will tell them this is not your fault. I say this as a professional library worker. It's just a thing that happens where if you've never heard the person say their name or spoken to someone who has heard the person say their name, there's no way to know how it's pronounced without more context than you're going to get off the cover of the book. There's no way to be sure until you ask someone, how do you say your name?
Yeah, a lot of people call me Elin sometimes because of the way my name is spelt. But I assure you it's Island, I swear. I've gone by Island all of my life.
You would know.
It's my name, leave me alone. Anyways, there was something else that you wanted to bring up that I honestly do also really want to talk about. And that is the idea that you're putting a lot of yourself into your characters.
Oh, goodness, yes. And especially with the Wizard Artificer character, I again built her as a test run for my angry librarian future, arcane help desk warlock build. So the big running gag with Lynn was she doesn't want to be here. She doesn't want to be here. She just wants to sit in a corner and read her dang book.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I read and know things. That's my jam. So anytime we came across a puzzle, I would do a history check and see if Lynn had read about it in any of her books. And more often than not, with the modifier that I had going on that character, she had. So we just kind of breezed through a good chunk of the puzzles because Lynn had, context and was rolling really well. But, anytime there was a social time, it's like, bye. And that's me at a party. If there's no snacks and no pets, I'm out. But it's changed over time. But that was definitely a self-insert, was just, I don't get to do that as much as I'd like to, and just say, nope, you're on your own. I want no part of this. I'm going to be over here reading. If you need me, fine. But if you don't, I'd like to finish this chapter. Thank you. So that was fun.
I am Go ahead.
But the idea that my Storm Herald Barbarian also managed to just kind of accidentally adopt a cat was also just very, like, that's the sort of thing that probably will eventually happen to me or in my presence someday.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my former cat. He has passed away long since, but Rocket J Cat was a fantastic cat, cat with a capital C. And that's how we, well, I say we. What happened is 3 of us in the family went to go look at kittens in someone's bedroom. And each of us wound up falling in love with a different cat from the other 2. So we wound up with 3 cats. And mine was the Indiana Jones of the cats, just exploring and like a cat's cat, great hunter, very smart, very independent, but will still come over and say hello because you have snacks and why not? But that's part of what happened with creating Ziggy Stardust is my character needed a little buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I didn't even tell you about the duck sword.
The what now?
So there was a meme about the sword of summoning ducks, and somebody threw it in the group chat for that same game, and the DM said, you know what? Why not? So Heibu got a duck summoning sword, and it's me. So, out of character, I'm like, so incidentally, is there in-game equivalent of Purina Duck Chow? And how much does it weigh, and how much does it cost? Because if she's going to be summoning ducks, it might be useful to keep one.
Yeah.
So that happened, and Sir Quacklin has turned out to be really useful. He got a 19 the one time. We had split the party at either end of a dungeon, and the one half of the party was deep in the dungeon in trouble. Sir Quacklin goes out doing an animal messenger because we got 2 bards. We might as well use them. And so he goes and retrieves the rest of the party and gets a 19 on the die. Nat 19. The DM rolled it, not me, to come and rescue the party. And so they just fly backwards through the other end of the dungeon to come get us. It was great. He is probably my biggest achievement is Sir Quacklin.
Sir Quacklin. I love Sir
Quacklin. SER space QUACKLIN. And one of our bards named Sir Quacklin.
I love Sir Quacklin so much.
Yeah. I love Sir Quacklin so much. I really hope that game comes back online ever at all. Because I love that darn duck so much. But just the absurdity of the situations my characters get into. Lynn, when she got super duper ridiculously drunk, failed the con save, but then passed the performance check for drunk karaoke. We ended up with like a pirate following us around with like little love notes, and it's like, I want no part of this. But they're like, okay, but like he's got a boat. This might come in handy later. Please just. And it's like, eh. So that was really fun to play up. I was okay with it out of character, but my character was not okay with this.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate of making sure people understand that it's okay to put a little bit of themselves in their characters. I know that it can be quite a bit of a taboo in some areas of the tabletop or just the role-playing community in general, because role-playing goes far beyond just the tabletop. It also expands into cosplaying. It also expands into MMO role-playing and acting and theater work and stuff like that. So I feel like the idea of not being able to put just a little bit of yourself in your character is just like, it just leaves a hole in your character where you're not entirely sure what to do with that hole, and unless you go ahead.
I think it's possible to overdo it, and I think that is definitely how I started with my roleplay, was like being too on the nose with, this cannot be me, this has to be a specific separate entity. And it was just, I don't personally have that level of extrapolation available internally to create a believable, consistent. I don't have that ability to mind read and project what someone else will do in every improbable situation every single time. If I can, make it partially me and partially based on an aggregate of other people, that gives me a lot more leeway to make a much more versatile and rounded, satisfying character.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of us quite know what's going to happen in that setting. Is it going to be a me moment? Is it going to be a not me moment? Like, what is Heibu going to do next? I don't even know.
Well, I
The dice will
definitely,
decide.
and to the opposite of that, it's entirely way like you have to get it really in the middle of being not too much like yourself, but not too much like a stranger. Because if you go the opposite end and it's like way too much like your character, then everybody does it and they call you a Mary Sue, essentially. Because you don't want anything bad to happen with you, so you don't want anything bad to happen with your character, and you make up this. Your character tends to be more overpowered the more it is like you, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely had to overcorrect a little bit. I do have an unfortunate and inconvenient level of please don't kill off my characteritis. But definitely
no,
at one
I
point,
also don't like my characters dying. Trust me.
but also at one point I got really, really courageous around it and said, you know what, for the sake of the narrative, Heibu is so frustrated. She doesn't rage in the like mechanical sense, but she's definitely super annoyed. She kicked a lever that wasn't moving for her in the dungeon and set off a trap, and everybody suffered, including her. She got an axe real good into her for that one, and has enough HP. She was eventually fine, but like that was memorable. And it made for a really great character establishing development, like clarification moment of, this is why she's a barbarian, is she had to learn to channel and direct her emotions because otherwise bad things can happen. So there's the very controlled, very deliberate barbarian rage factor where all of a sudden she gets stronger, focused, the adrenaline or whatever better positions her to do what she needs to do. And then there's the I'm so mad right now, I'm going to kick this lever and oops, now I've got an axe in me. Great. That hurt. And what is that screaming down the hall from the other people in my party? Uh-oh, what did I do? Oh no.
I am very much somebody who when I make a character to die, like I will make characters specifically to die. Does that make sense to you?
Ones that you deliberately aren't emotionally invested in preserving?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I used to run a guild in World of Warcraft. Basically, it was nothing but red shirts. And if you don't know what a red shirt is, a red shirt is
I my mom is a hardcore Trekkie. I grew up watching Next Generation. I know what red shirts are.
For anybody out there listening who
99% of the time they are expendable and they are there just to get killed off.
They are there to die. If a red shirt goes to planet, that red shirt's gonna die.
Somebody's gonna die, and it's not gonna be the character with a name.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be the red shirt.
Yeah, I used to run a guild of nothing but red shirts, where it was basically you needed NPCs who could for an event, for like an in-game event, and you didn't like. And you just you might need someone to die for the sake of the narration.
So like red shirts for hire?
Yeah, basically. And we would just go to other people's events in game and get in contact with the group leader, like, hey, if you ever need people for death, let us know and we'll be happy to be the death part of your game. So that way it feels like things are a little bit more higher stakes. Because when you know people aren't going to die, sometimes the story does get a little... I shouldn't say die. Maybe saying die is the wrong word. If you know someone's not going to get hurt, like, to an extreme degree...
There needs to be a sense of this matters.
Yes. And so the red shirts would come in and do that. And we would make new characters and, have them join the other guilds before, like way before the event would start. That way people would be like, oh, like, hey, you're this new person. Yeah, I'm here to roleplay and enjoy the game with you. And then suddenly,
So
bam,
they care
they're
when
dead.
you. Oh no,
I know. It was devious. And I'm so
that's
sad
so
that the guild is
good.
gone. I used to spend a lot of time and care helping people craft their stories for their players. And I want to get that way at tabletops as well, because I know that there's like so many cool and interesting stories out there to share with your friends, and tabletop is just so cool because you get to do that. Sorry, I'm gushing about role playing again.
It's good. This gives me a chance to like catch my breath because I talk so much too.
Oh, don't we all? Hey, welcome to the podcast.
It's the ADHD.
It really is. Oh
Hash
man,
thoughts
it's
will
so much.
send them out into the world.
My friend, my last guest, Willow, she started a podcast because her mother was like, "You're talking to me too much about this. Go start a podcast and tell all your friends."
I love it. I love it. That is the best possible outcome that I could envision for that kind of setting. I mean, it was your idea. Like, of course I did. Like, what are you supposed to do? Tell me not to do the thing you literally said to do this. Like, you can't be mad now.
Yeah, I think it is. That's the reason why I like podcasts so much. Is I just like talking with people and I like listening to people talk. I'm very extroverted. If you haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out where on the introvert extrovert ranges I am, because I can be very reserved. I can be downright shy and anxious.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute, like one of my friends has said explicitly from the Yarn crew, the way to get an introvert talking is to pick the topic they already want to talk about, and then they won't stop.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not the right topic, they won't say anything. They don't need to. So that's part of what happened, I think, is I just really enjoy my characters, and I really enjoy the collaborative element of tabletop RPGs. And I do play like more classical JRPGs as well. I was really into Final Fantasy games for a while. I got through the entire story arc of 9. I
love 9.
wanted to
Oh,
get
God,
further in 10, but the completionist aspects got me real good in the no time. But like, I love the idea of seeing what if. It's my favorite stuff to read when I can read is sci-fi, fantasy, speculative fiction. What would happen under such and such conditions? Like the question books are my favorite. And the fiction books where it doesn't have to strictly align with what's already known to be possible. I just ordered a replacement copy of one of the Analog 6 anthologies from when I was growing up, which, when I say when I was growing up, it was my mother's copy. Like that is a very old publication compared to me, but we had a copy. It was a mass market paperback, and I still remember some of the stories very fondly. And I'm like, you know what? I'm an adult with adult money. I'm going to go buy me a copy because I don't have one right now, and I can afford $7. So that's my splurge for the month.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I also have a copy of Redwall. And I know that's silly. I have a copy of Redwall.
It's not silly. A lot of people really loved those books when they first came out. And if you have no reason to stop loving them, you're going to keep loving them.
You're absolutely right. I hope to be able to pass this book down to Jaden someday. I don't know if he's ever going to be into reading like I was into reading, because I love to read. Now, here's the cool thing. I loved reading Goosebumps as a kid. I don't know why, but I loved scary things as a kid. And sure, I was frightened and everything, but I always had like a lot of fun watching spooky stuff or reading spooky books or something like that. My son loves spooky stuff. He loves watching scary things. He picks the shows, and there are some shows like absolutely I will not let him watch, but for the most part, when we watch something spooky like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye or something like that, he loves loves watching them, and he doesn't get scared or anything. So I'm hoping this means that he's on the same sort of path I was, because eventually he'll turn to fantasy, and I hope that means that he'll get to enjoy Redwall like I got to enjoy Redwall, and I hope that he gets to enjoy tabletops like I got to enjoy tabletops. You know what I mean?
And even if it's not the exact same stuff, everybody I've met eventually finds their something that they love. And there will be a community around it, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah. But something else you were saying that I wanted to talk about is about finding like what level introvert and extrovert you are. You don't have to look at those as like two opposite ends. You can put them up like side by side and just see like which one are you more of at that moment. Am I more extroverted and I just don't want to go out at the moment, or am I more introverted and I don't want to go out and socialize, or do I want to go out and socialize? And I mean, no one's gonna blame you
Yeah,
if
I
you
view
take
them
the
as separate slider bars, and I have a blend of factors that lean in both directions. I crave connection, I crave interaction and social time, but a bit like a cat, it has to be under the right conditions or it's worse than nothing.
Mm-hmm. No one. I mean, and if you're out there and you're listening to this right now and you have reservations about about being out in public with people, or you get anxiety a lot, or just whatever, no one in their right mind should be upset at you for taking your mental health seriously, your emotional health seriously. So if you feel like you can't play, don't play. Just don't play. It's okay. I mean, most play groups I've ever been in have been pretty much all right with it.
And the right crew will understand and will make space for you to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. We've absolutely had sessions in my games where 2 players were missing because they had, whatever reason, not been able to come that session. And part of our solution was to have 6 players.
Yeah.
And, if everybody shows up, great, everybody's in game that day. And if somebody doesn't, doink, the Velociraptors just took these 2 characters, maybe they'll be back next time.
Yeah,
Maybe they won't.
I've done that before too, where I've been like, where I'll just like invite some, like I'll start off with I prefer my preferred play group is 3 players plus the GM, just because. Oh, hi! I am so happy that you found Garden of Banban cartoon on your tablet. Hey, buddy, I'm almost done. I'm wrapping this up pretty much. I'm so proud that you ate your chicken nuggets. Well, I guess I'm gonna just finish this with him here because he is determined to spend some time with me, which is a-okay.
Aww! Yay!
And plus, we've been
Parenting
getting
win. The child wants to be with you.
I know. We're gonna turn this down. Okay, sorry. But we have been recording for pretty much an hour, and this is pretty much where I get to stop. Everybody who's listening to this podcast exactly knows what's happening. Is there one of the biggest things I'd like to ask is there any advice that you might have for people out there in the role-playing community, people out there in the no, you gotta turn that down, all the way down. It has to go all the way down. Then go into the table, my love bug. Just give me 2 seconds. Is there any advice that you have for any role players out there?
Yeah, absolutely. The right people will make the best game, and the wrong people, it will never work. So find your people, and they are out there. They are probably out there. I recently came across the action fiction third-party content, and I have found a great community with them. And similarly, the Modern Sam bunch, great folks, just very supportive. The communities do exist. We are out there. Come find us. We are looking for you. We want to grow and support each other. Hang in there. That's what I would say to people that haven't found their niche yet.
Hell yeah. And do you have anything that you would like to plug at the end of this?
No, I think I just did. The action fiction crew is amazing. They're currently working on couple other projects besides the one that I backed on Kickstarter, but keep an eye out for them on Kickstarter. They've been doing that. They've got a Patreon, and similarly, the Modern Sam app is set to drop late 2023. It's about helping people with ADHD and similarly neurospicy situations to self-manage a little better, or at least easier. But again, baked in community is my biggest strategy for getting myself through life. And I want that for as many of you as possible.
And that's all we have for this conversation this day. Thank you again, everybody new and old, for coming to join me. Thank you again, everybody who's filling out the form and giving me the ability to come and talk to you. It's going to be wonderful to have that conversation with you. If you have a social media and you really like this episode, please, sharing this episode makes so much of a difference. It really does. And if you don't want to share, just, leave me a little comment on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm pretty much everywhere. And that would also help. Leave me 5 stars if you liked it. Or, don't. Put your honest opinion, for real. I prefer honesty over just glamorizing the podcast. I would like to know how I can improve, not how I can be full of myself. And again, if you want to just talk to us, come and join us in the Discord. I'd really love having you there to talk and chat. Hell, you don't even know how to do that. You can just be there and stalk us. That's fine too. It's open for everybody. Anyways, have a lovely Monday, guys, and be good.